Thank you, Mr. Klein. Ms. Ross, the gentlelady from North Carolina.
Thank you, Chair Van Drew. As a former member of the General Assembly and also a former transit attorney, I have been an advocate for additional resources for safe transit, for mental health, for victims, for law enforcement for decades. And in fact, the district attorney here, Spencer Merriweather, has also been sounding the alarm for years about the chronic lack of funding his office has received from our state legislature. As we heard from Ms. King, he currently has 84 full-time assistant district attorneys in his office, many of them locally funded. But for a city the size of Charlotte, the standard says that he should have at least 144 prosecutors to handle the caseload. This chronic underfunding by the state legislature leads to incredibly high caseloads for ADAs in his office, which in turn leads to high turnover and not moving cases quickly enough. The state allocation for the Mecklenburg DA's office has only increased by a single prosecutor since 2010. Despite a 20% growth in Charlotte's population since then. And between 2010 and 2020, the legislature only added 31 more prosecutors. We're glad that the state legislature just decided to include additional funding for 10 more, but clearly Mecklenburg County needs more than that. I would also say Wake County while I'm here advocating for them. Ms. King, given the lack of resources the state legislature has provided to the Mecklenburg DA's office, we're left hoping that the federal government will help pick up some of the slack, Mr. Klein. And yet, the Trump administration has clawed back or sought to cut hundreds of millions in funding for federal law enforcement assistance, substance abuse treatment, crisis intervention, domestic violence, crime victim assistance, and more. Can you speak about how ripping away these essential resources for state and local governments is not just an abstract budget item, but has a real-world effect on this community?
When we talk about resources, less does not equate to more. In fact, many of us in our own general lives, we say, put your money where your mouth is. Show me where you're spending your money. I'll show you what priorities are important to you. These offices, whether we're talking about law enforcement, whether we're talking about prosecutor offices, or whether we're talking about community organizations, they are doing the work and will continue to do the work. However, they're already strapped with trying to prioritize what initiatives do they put up first? Is it training? Is it personnel? Is it equipment? And when the funding is either reduced or cut back or diminished, that adds additional strains on these organizations to truly figure out how to best serve. To be clear, these offices have the goal of public safety in mind. However, being able to have sufficient resources to do that great work is vital to the boots on the ground, which are the local communities that are doing that work.
And as a follow-up to that, you know, you have a group of concerned congresspeople here, including many from North Carolina. Can you tell us what, because you've been both a state prosecutor and a federal prosecutor, what we in North Carolina should be advocating for our communities?
More funding to law enforcement, more funding for prosecutor offices. One example that I'll give you is anytime a prosecutor's office, for an example, is strapped with resources, they are having to decide whether or not to maybe fill vacant positions. We're talking about unfunded positions, filling vacant positions. If those vacant positions remain vacant, that's more work that has to then be shared amongst the prosecutors that are in the office. That leads to prosecutor turnover. It leads to prosecutor burnout. And so what I would ask members of Congress to do is to really look at providing more resources, more funding in particular, to our law enforcement agencies, to our prosecutor offices, and also to our community organizations that provide supplemental support for those.
Thank you very much. And, Mr. Chairman, I have a unanimous consent request. I ask for unanimous consent to enter into the record an article titled, "As Mecklenburg Weighs Budget Priorities, Court Leaders Barely Getting By Ask for Help," dated February 18th, 2025.
Without objection.
Thank you. I yield back.